Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Welcome, everybody, to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genia desk since last we met. We are here every other Monday. And so our next meeting, let me look on the schedule, is the 18th of August. In between, all kinds of interesting things happen. And here's my assistant, Bella, to join us today on the show. We got a great lineup. Let me introduce our panelists, our regular panelists today. And we have a guest. Frank is our guy from Germany. Hi, Frank. Mike check. It's working. And Randy, our guy from California, there was a song about that. I remember it. Just came back in that moment. Ellen, our gal in Canada, and you are representing Canada by yourself today. Dan's away. Summer months are always like this.
Tough,
yeah. If historically, in the, I've operated online since Q-Link, and before that, and then PC-Link, and then AOL. Summer months are always quieter because people are away on vacation, and most of our audience is our Northern Hemisphere residents. And speaking of Northern Hemisphere residents, Hillary's our gal in Wales. Hi, Hillary. Let's hear your mic.
Hi.
Good. You're here. And also joining us today is Barbara at Projectkin. And normally she's here to talk to us about Substack. But if you watched any of the texts that I sent out yesterday, when I finalized the docket, she's here, right here in the house, to talk about a genealogy breakthrough that we all wish would happen for us. All right, so what have we got? First of all, Ellen is having a birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to you. And our Sherry, who's working the YouTube side, her birthday's on Friday. So happy birthday to you. We love you both, and we're glad to have you here. So Frank, if you could move everybody else to the wings, except for Barbara, I want to talk with Barbara. I was blown away by your breakthrough experience. And it started out kind of techie because the title says SEO, search engine optimization, a Swiss story, and a rolling ball of hay. So that you're really good at picking titles for your write-ups. So let me ask you, first of all, how long have you been doing family history research, not just Substack? Because that's what we normally talk about.
Yeah, I had been doing, I suppose the best way to count it is from when my husband and I first got married about 39 years ago. And in that sense, I started looking back at what had already been done. In some ways, I feel like I am a generation ahead in the sense that I am now discovering, as you'll hear more, from the benefits of genealogists who preceded me. That's like all of you and your great grandchildren. And so I had remarkable bits that were accessible 40 years ago of genealogy that had been done on my mother's side years and years past. I then started working on my father-in-law's, my husband's family then to try to understand who was at my reception.
Yeah. So you know who these people were and from whence they came. In fact, you're at your in-laws' house right now. So you have a different backdrop. We're missing the stairwell. You're actually downstairs by the freezer. And I love it. Well, the article we're talking about, I know that I'm going to share my screen for a little minute here. Here's the article. Let me zoom in. So what is SEO? Just like a 2-sentence abbreviation of what that is. Explanation.
SEO simply search engine optimization is how to be found. You know, search engines are out there searching for stuff. Well, it turns out there are a few subtle things you can do on your end when you're publishing something to make it easy to be found. It's like when you're out introducing yourself to somebody, don't forget to tell them your name.
Yeah. So she can't do two sentences, you notice, guys. She is very good at this, and makes it very interesting. All right. So she must have, SEO must have been part of your publication. Now, publication sounds scary on the Substack side, but it's really just a blog post. A publication has blog posts in it, and it can
It's
have a podcast attached to it, and it could have notes activated that are easy to access. But that's what we do. It's cousin bait. So
That's right. Well,
yeah.
as with all things, as you know, I come to this as a product manager in technology companies, but you always start with a question, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the goal? Who is this
Hmm.
for? And what are they expecting? And then that takes you down a path. So I started this post with the notion of SEO because in many ways this journey began 7 months ago. Even though the big stuff happened, the thing that makes it just mind blowing happened in 30 days. So 7 months ago, I was challenged within the genealogy community by these lovely team. I have linked here Robin Stewart, Kirstie Hall, and Mighty Acorns, who's a fellow named Tad Callan. And they were saying, hey, why don't we, to get to know each other, why don't we all just post our 16s? So they kept
Hmm.
repeating the word my 16. Who are my 16? These are my 16. So this was picking up, and I'll add this is a update because I made a few errors, but that's how
Okay.
it
Am
works.
I locked up, or is
No,
Barbara?
I still see me. I'm still here.
Just what go?
Perhaps the zooming on the screen sharing.
Okay. It's okay.
In any case, it walked through who are my 16 2X great grandparents, right? And in my case, I have out 7 generations and more on my mother's side. But on my father's side, I go out maybe 4 generations at most. And even those are wild guesses without a lot of confidence. So if you'll scroll up just a little bit, this part of
Mhm.
the story, down, sorry, down just a little bit. We all use our mouse differently. There you go. In this case, that pink element, that was the one, the Paulus Reese and Paulus Reese. That was the one that I was sure of, but who was married to whom and what the stories were was very vague. In fact, all I really truly had on my father's side was this story that my 2X great grandfather had been killed by a rolling ball of hay. That
Okay.
story just seems so crazy that
Yeah.
it was intriguing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how does hay roll?
Well, actually, we do have rolls of hay rather than bales. The rectangle, rectilinear, whatever they are, 3D things, and I find them quite surprising because I was used to the hay. Stack the bales of hay, and you can sit on them and have a
Right.
campfire, not too close to the campfire. Yeah, right.
So that's all this began. So I had that post done 7 months ago, and then I went about my business, right? I did other stuff. I mostly focused on stories about all the Projectkin stuff that you know me for. And occasionally I created a series called My Stories where I toss up a few more that came along. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, I had a comment in one of my stories that said, hello, I'm Joel Gurich, and I think I'm your second cousin. What? So we, had a little more chit chat and scheduled a time to connect. He knew the same story about the rolling ball of hay. He had
Oh
heard
my
the same
gosh.
story. So when we talk about these crazy myths that may or may not be true, one of the glorious things about them is that if the myth is sticky in marketing terms, if it just you can't forget the story, then it will pass down, right or not, and it becomes like a secret password.
Mm.
It's how we know that there must be some connection between us. So we started to piece it together. And what we both had in common was the story that well, in my case, my second great grandparent, he's a generation younger than I am, came from Switzerland, which is part of the story I had heard, and that he had died in Switzerland. She came in from Switzerland with the children and made a family. Well, I'm out here in California. I didn't have any connection with any of the cousins or anything else. He did. He's still in great connection with his grandmother, and it was
Oh,
his his three ex great grandfather that died, and the three ex great grandmother, and so on. So, his two ex great grandmother was my great grandfather's big sister. That
yes.
simple.
Yeah.
And he's a young man, well, in his 40s, with young children and a deep devotion to genealogy. A great deal of work had been done,
Yes.
all leading to the same brick wall in Switzerland. He had nothing else beyond the rolling ball of hay. So I paused there saying, well, I trust you. You know what you're doing. I'm not going to go in there second guessing everything you've ever done on this piece. Let me go do what I do. So I went off to go scale the brick wall in Switzerland. And it's funny. It's like engineers say, once you know the problem to solve, it's a whole lot easier to solve it. So um, I knew that was the town of Linthal in Switzerland, and I knew Linthal was in the canton of Glarus, which actually changes name to Sud Glarus and blah blah blah. Close enough. Aha, Frank, I had a feeling. So you'll like this one, Frank. So I find, now that I know what I'm looking for, in about 2 clicks, I find GlarusFamilyTree.com. Yes, folks, it's that easy. And sure enough, there's a contact page. I fill in the contact page. The next day, I get a response in beautiful English, I will add, from Patrick Wild, who has been maintaining this site. He is from the same canton, an attorney and banker, semi-retired, I think probably my age, and has taken over from what turns out all the way back to the mid 19th century. This remarkable gentleman, Jakob, forgive me now I'm embarrassed. I'm going to garble the name, but you see it there in the post. I'll get there. Uh, had been this remarkable gentleman had been was a retired, semi-retired civil servant, and had noticed, also a genealogist in the mid 19th century, and had noticed all of these parish records, church records throughout the canton, including birth, death, marriage dates.
Gee,
So
just,
he starts
remote stuff that genealogists are
compiling,
never interested in, right?
never. And did I say Swiss?
Yeah.
Not to stereotype, but in perfect handwriting, in
Oh,
perfect journals, sits down and transcribes it, compiling family dates by families, and does all of this across now 40 journals, and then finds somebody to take over the work. So this goes on through 4 or 5 different genealogists passing down the work. You'll find all of this detail at glarusfamilytree.com/ wait for it, genealogy. So in that page, he has listed all of what he knows and how he knew it. And then that is to say, Patrick Wild, has taken it upon himself in this modern world to start transcribing those records, not just digitizing them, but transcribing them into structured databases. So he's compiled them primarily into geneanet.org/pwild, and that's where P Wild one actually, and that's where he has, thank you very much, Larus Canton Archive, and this is where he has been compiling over 360,000 people with, again, their birth, death, and marriage dates, including, of course, different spellings of names, and Patrick's primary goal today in this modern world is to recognize that in the mid 19th century, a great number of families left Switzerland because the economy was bad. This is primarily a agricultural community, so they left the community. Now, this story here, oh, this is this is the story of my great grandfather or two ex great grandfather. So this is an example of the careful transcription of these dates. This was my family. And he is talking here about the birth and death dates of all of the family members, and scroll up just a tiny bit. And this is the demise of Paulus Reese in 1851, who had been hit by a bundle of hay, broke his spine, and died the next
Oh,
day. That's the translation,
oh
and why we
my.
heard it the way we did. So then I was asking the question, how does one die? How does a bundle of hay just fall on your back? It's Switzerland,
Oh, yes. I just got it. Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just imagine Yosemite. If for those of you who are American and at least know Ansel Adams photographs, the mountains just go straight up. So over the centuries in Switzerland, they have developed a method of harvesting the hay from the top of the mountains. There are people who go up to the top of the mountains. They're called haymakers. And up at the top of the mountain, they're cultivating this hay all through the year. And then in the early spring, they harvest it with scythes. And then they come back in the late summer and rake that hay together into bundles. Those
Mhm.
bundles are laden onto sledges that are basically like a sled, but for dirt, and then slid or allowed to roll carefully down the mountain. And my two ex great grandfather was a cooper, according to that same record. And a cooper does what? I mean, they do metal work on wood. So I'm guessing here that he was probably repairing a sledge or something like that and was crushed by this ball of hay. And just to understand what that whole thing is like, from Patrick's pages, I start searching by those terms for haymaker in German and so on. And I find this absolutely fabulous YouTube silent film from probably, I'm guessing, the 1920s or something. It's undated, that shows what it was like for these haymakers in the mountains with these massive balls of hay. And you can just, I mean, it makes total sense.
Makes
Um,
sense.
it was just breathtaking. So all of that, the connection between Joel and Patrick happened within 30 days, May 30th to June 30th. Here we are at the beginning of August. I was able to introduce the two of them to each other. We have not yet met on a Zoom call. I still plan to do that. I still have dreams of putting us all together. Patrick is highly motivated to find other families who moved outside of Switzerland, help reconnect them. So by reconnecting with Patrick, that took my family tree back to 15
Oh,
generations. And
gosh.
there are others that go back to the 13th century, the 11th century. These records are just breathtaking. And they are so carefully captured each of the pictures of the story.
I love it. I love it. So when Bill West coined the phrase cousin bait years ago in his West in New England, what, Randy, isn't it West in New England? Yes, he's shaking his head yes in the wings. Thank you. We don't normally, I mean, aside from the fact that any one of these breakthroughs happened, sometimes it doesn't happen in 7 months. You already won the lottery there. And then bit by bit, as this story unfolds, and I haven't even shown everything in your blog post, um, it's just absolutely incredible. Have you bought a lottery ticket? We do a lottery here in Washington State. If you might, you know, you may have to.
I try to use luck for good.
Yes, I hear ya.
I try very hard to use luck for good. And actually on that point, I know that I stand on the very hard work of a lot of other people. And if there's something that I can do that celebrates that, it's to celebrate the hard work of others, not that I am just lucky. And honestly, all of the work that all of you are doing with your family trees, with the care and accuracy and empathy, you might be, you might be, Valerie, we might be related. um, as we go through each of these things, is to realize that when you're putting it together today, we have these tools that were never, ever possible before. And it's, what's amazing about this was not only the hard work of this fabulous archivist, all the way through what Patrick is doing and what Joel has done here in the
Mhm.
United States, which I never would have connected with either.
Yeah.
Putting those together in a thoughtful, respectful way that takes advantage of each of those pieces. So the thing my thing is, yeah, it's tech, it's the nerddom. So what I realized was I connected with Joel simply because of another genealogist, Robin Stewart's encouragement for my 16. So I've discovered, well, I'm sure it was planted there all along, but this simplicity of SEO as it's implemented in Substack means that you don't really have to be all that focused on it, but using a keyword, a single unusual combination of letters, numbers, or whatever, can make it very easy to find other things that do the same thing. So that was the idea with My 16, so we could find each other. It turns out that within Substack, their search mechanism is actually highly weighted. So it's weighted to Substack's own objectives of things like popularity and whatever. It's not clean search. But
Mhm.
if you take a certain phrase and you put it into the social description, which it automatically is grabbed from your description, your subhead for a post, but you can also edit it separately, then that term is there when search engines come and look. And the way you find that is you go into a search URL search field and enter substack.com or the subdomain, if you know what that is,
Mhm.
substack.com colon, and then that term, in my case, my 16. And I give the example there. You can find all these other people that did the my 16 exercise, if you will. But I like that so well, I'm now going to use it for something else. So I just launched another initiative called S- Stories 250 because I'm enchanted with the ideals of our American story and where it came at the
Revoir.
time of the Enlightenment, at the time of the age of rationality, of the, all men are created equal and women, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to celebrate that in anticipation of our semi-sesquicentennial, quincentennial next year. So I have launched a little program that is essentially going to encourage people to write the stories of their ancestors, not necessarily that fought in the American War. Oh, how about we look about what were your ancestors doing 250 years ago that was relevant to all of these kinds of things. And we've
To
discovered
those
stories in Australia.
those high
Yeah,
ideals.
yeah.
Yes, I hear
Maybe
you.
it was the warriors, maybe it was their families. And put in your description or headline or both to stories 250. And you can search
Well,
now substack.com colon stories 250 and you get the whole thing.
okay. So she's showing you she's done two things here today. We got the breakthrough story, which is a very feel good story that we're all hoping would happen. I mean, I wish I had response in 14 months, let alone 7. And you had to do some interesting research, even though you made the connection. You had to find out about, why. What's this bale of hay stuff? Frank's saying this. Apparently, Frank's an expert also on bales of hay in mountainous areas.
And it's
I
very
can
common.
relate because my Germanic ancestors, and I'm saying Germanic because they left and were in England by 1709. Um, they went along the Rhine River, where on the east side, that's very mountainous, and grapevines grow there. And I was saying to somebody, how on earth do they ever pick the grapes? And one guy on the tour said they sit at the top on a little sled and just hold their hands out as they slide down. And of course, it was a little more complicated than that, but it's, our ancestors dealt with the terrain just like we do. Um, we did get this point about Switzerland has a lot of harbors for immigration routes. Yeah. And Ellen says, oh, speaking to SEO and getting the word out about your ancestors, she met a second cousin's girlfriend through her YouTube channel because she commented on one of the videos that Ellen has a YouTube channel. Let's see. Blog posts needed as they relate to the family I recently posted about. I think that's a continuation of your DNA breakthrough that you had, Hillary. Yeah, making a post about your research and all you knew at the beginning was this little tidbit of a family story that may or may not be true. There's a lot of names out there spelled one way or the other. RIES, RIS, however you might be spelling it. Our articles, our blog posts or articles as they are, should mention as many possible spellings of a name because you don't know which doorway somebody's going to find that post through.
Mm-hmm.
And so combination of the possible spelling of the name and bale of hay, that's a pretty specific story.
Yep.
Yeah, rolling
Yep.
bale of hay.
I still have a complete unknown on the pathway that his widow took to get to America and then where she first settled. I have uh, Joel Gurich has a just the unknown here is a trunk. He found a post on genealogy.org, which is now part of Ancestry,
Yes.
that was written by someone named Linda Reese, saying, "Yeah, I found this shipping steamer trunk that had stenciled on the side of it, Christiana Reese, Ries, stenciled across it. And I thought it was so interesting since it was my last name, I purchased it." So Joel and I are like, what?
What?
What? First of all, her name wasn't Ries when she left, but Christiana is a really unusual name. So, but she might have been given that in immigration and then stenciled on the steamer trunk. Where is this steamer trunk?
What's
Who are
going on?
you? Where
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you? So so hello, Linda Reese. If you're out there, I'm randomly emailing you saying, how do you do? But
So
a blog lets me point to the blog and explain why I'm looking. And that very helpful for oh, there you go. Mennonites from Switzerland. That's right. That's why I think what you write in the articles is like a anchor that you can just keep, or like a mountain
mhm,
you can keep pointing to as you then go foot by, travel by foot.
mhm. It seems like there's our Robin girl. Have Swiss ancestors also going back to the 1500s. Yeah.
Take a
And
look at Janaenet.
yeah. And Sherry says, thank you, Sherry, by the way, for handling those ruffians over there on the YouTube side. We appreciate that. And we miss Melinda today. I hope she's listening in. One of her second great grandfathers is from Switzerland. The grandmother is listed in the 1940 census as being a native Swiss speaker. That's her native language. So that's pretty close. Interesting. Yeah, you're getting a lot of comments from people. There's something about, I'm sure you understand about family crests associated with an individual, etc. Yeah. I love it. Any more comments from people? I can't believe that a hay bale would be 500 to 2,000 pounds, but I guess they could be. I mean, that's a ton. Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah. Any other comments? Nope. I think we're doing pretty well. Thank you, Barbara, for talking about two really important things in the way of a breakthrough, which is encouraging, but how it came about because you put the word out on your post.
Yep.
And there's people like Randy that have over 17,000 posts over there on Blogger. It doesn't matter where you put the post, please get it out there. I happen to prefer Substack. I know I've taught people how to use Blogger. I know WordPress, not backwards and forwards, but almost. But I got to tell you, I'm getting better traction on Substack. And then to consider becoming part of this new initiative that Barbara's talking about, in celebration of ancestors, regardless of they didn't even have to be on the American continent, did they? If
Nope.
what they fought for and what they died for what was the freedom of expression, the honoring of life, and just tell the story. That's the message.
I have one little, I know this isn't the point of the story, but it does work to the SEO point. To make
Okay.
that interesting, I'm going to take those stories I find in the Stories 250, put them into a shared timeline and a global map so that we can see where these stories are coming from. I have a post, I'll be explaining that shortly when I get home. But
Mhm.
I am excited about that because it's not just one point, it's not just one country, it's a community.
Well, and oddly enough, I have something to help you with. Let me find that link. I don't know if you use Google Sheets.
Oh
Somewhere,
yeah,
Frank. Okay. They have a new timeline format for Google Sheets.
I'll
It
take a
was,
look.
yeah, where's,
What I'm using is an open source tool designed for journalists called timeline.nightlab.com.
okay, just
And
a second. Let me put
night
this one out there and I'll
it's a
get
whole
that
lot of
one.
fancy JavaScript to make it pretty. It's the same thing I use for my Lafayette project. And
Okay,
the
what is
root
it again?
is
Timeline.
timeline dot nightlab KNIGHT nightlab.com.
Okay, I'm putting that in
Yeah, it's the
all right,
same
so
tool that I used for the Lafayette project, and
okay.
it's pretty. it it's not hard to use once you know how to use it, and the back end is all Google Sheets, and
Okay.
I can give anybody else the tool to reproduce it themselves.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so you've got two other links. It's funny that I mean I never do Google Hints. It's always genealogy hints, except timelines are a genealogy thing. And the very last entry on our docket to talk about today was to just quickly share the link to the support document where Google is announcing how to use the timeline view of Google Sheets.
Okay, I'll
It's
take a look at
kind of
that.
cool. Yeah.
I'll take a
All
look at that.
right. All right. Well, Barbara, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Now
much.
get back to the family stuff. Okay.
Will do.
Enjoy your day. Thank you very much. All right. We'll,
Bye.
we'll move her to the wings and let's see what else is on the docket for today. All right. So, our question for today for my panelists was what records have indicated your ancestors served in the military? And Frank, let's see. Do you want to share your screen or do you want me to do it for you? We'll take it in the order it's listed. Oh, wait. Hillary needs to go first, though, actually, because she's leaving early. And you have a number of things. I'll pull up the first one at Find My Past and share my screen. Dear heavens. I think you're going to have to share your screen, dear. I don't have access to that account. When you set it up, I will see that you've set it up and I'll bring you up. So Frank, let's go back to you. Thank you for being adaptable.
No problem with that.
So what you're doing is dealing with a recorded ancestry, so I can share that. And let me get that pulled up. So this is the German military killed in action. Tell me more about this.
This is a collection by the German Federal Archive dealing with all the military from the German side that was killed in action. The whole collection was taken over by the Federal Archive just recently, and they simply indexed it via ancestry, and you get a whole lot of index cards. If you want to show one,
Yes.
just enter the name that I sent you on private.
Okay, I'll pull it up. Okay.
There you go.
All right, thank you. I've just got it. And don't share your screen yet. Just get it ready to share, Hillary. Thank you. All right. That way it'll all come through. So the guy's name is Max, and then this is the last name.
Yep.
And we will now search for it and see what the card looks like. Is there any particular one you prefer I look at?
This is the fun part. All of them are for the same guy. All of them has errors inside, but just one.
All right, so let me actually look at the document. Oh, watch how this is working.
This must be new.
I guess. Let me zoom out. I think it will be easier to see.
Just click it. It will open the complete one.
All right, there we go. Oh, so that was an interesting preview. Did you guys catch that? As I was mouse rolling over the image, it was zooming in on certain parts, which saves a click because you could preview, is this the guy I want to look at? So what are we dealing with here? Oh, this is going ahead 50 or back 50. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what are we? This is the family surname.
This is the family name and the first name.
Yep.
When he was born, where
he was
born.
Yes.
What regiment he was in.
The troop. Yep.
Under it is the backup regiment for that regiment.
Okay, so one level higher.
No, the one that they call in for backup when as he was fallen.
Okay, when this one falls, then this one would pull in. Okay,
exactly. And then you got on the right side his dog tag number, which is very important to search for additional records.
You mean this one or
no,
this one?
This one.
Okay.
This one that you're circling now. Then you have just let me see if I can pull up the English translation.
Okay. I mean, he's having to do this on the fly, guys. And these are they are atypical terms. So I don't know what that is, but apparently
his rank.
His military rank. Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the date, hour, and place where he was killed.
Okay.
And then the one that makes it known.
Okay, so this is the certification date of it.
Yep.
Okay.
And now comes the special part about this collection on ancestry. Just click on the button to the right.
On the bottom.
No, the one up there.
Not this one?
Yep,
Yes, this one.
this
Okay.
one.
Ah, on the back, there's more information. Yay. What-
Exactly, and Ancestry is the only collection that has the backside, because Fall 3 also has these index cards and not the backside.
Oh dear. And tell me what's on the backside. First of all, I can read the text better.
The first one is check as well, and then you can see the other entries which
Yes.
they marked there.
Yes.
Then where the grave is, and who to write these informations to. And there you see the name of his mother and where she was living at this time.
So you get a official notice of who the mother is. So
Yep.
now you know which Max this is.
Exactly.
It's not, yeah, that is incredible.
They always wrote there the next relative. So it could be the mother, the sister, the father, whoever.
So if it's the mother or not a wife, does that imply the person is not married?
Probably. And he wasn't.
Aha. Okay. Wow. Incredible. All right. So what we did was navigate by using these little buttons, these little buttons on the side to get back to the front side and the back side.
Yep.
Now, in somewhere, you've got to be careful. They're really good because at the top of this, they said who it's about and the death date, which lets us know this is accurate for what was immediately prior. But in some military records, and I'm thinking they're World War II draft registration cards, they weren't filmed properly. And sometimes the backside, which gets copied, is not for who is immediately prior. So you have to check. You have to look around. In this case, we don't have to check because it's got that listing at the top.
Yep.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So it's not the death date, but the birth date that they list in there.
All right. So excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I wouldn't have known about it. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see who's next. Okay. So next we do have Hillary, and you are sharing your screen. So I'm going to pull that up on stage. Let me remove mine. Because you have rights to as a moderator here in StreamYard, your Roy Compton came up when you added it and put it up on the stage. See, that's a two-part thing. That's why I said just remove it from the stage. We'll pull it up when we're ready. So who is Roy? And he died in 1917.
He's my great uncle. He's one who ended up being he was a British home child. And he came back to England and he fought in the Hampshire Regiment. He was born in Wiltshire, but he fought for the Hampshire Regiment in Mesopotamia. Is where he died. This is from a database, soldiers that died in the Great War. So there's a lot on there, I think, but I haven't actually got an image on that one. And the same with the other one, which I'm going to share. I'll share instead.
Thank you. I like that it happened that when they did this transcription, they included his prior unit and the unit he was in when he passed away. I noticed that before you scrolled up. Okay, what's the next one?
This one comes from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. I've just got the link that was on Find My Pass, but you can also get to it through the Commonwealth War Graves Commission for the war dead, and that actually gives you a bit more details of the actual date and where he's commemorated on the Basra Memorial in what's now Iraq. and that, and it gives you, so you've got enough information like his service number and things like that there that you can use. I'll quickly go to the next one because I'm conscious of the time.
I know.
This one is where I can find things at the National Archives in London. And you can, and because I'm signed in, I could download this one and get the actual image and everything from the download, and at the moment could download him for free. And there is a preview that you can get for some of these things, but obviously they're watermarked and whatever, but you will get a whole sheet with about, I think that one's probably going to have something like 4 to 6 of these medal cards on there, and it just tells you what medals they were awarded and that. So that's for the same person. And then finally I've got another link for this same person, which is how I actually knew it was him, because he wasn't actually born Roy. He was actually born well, his name given was Ernest Roy. That's the 1901 census there, that one. But I knew it was him because of as I share the image.
It's coming up. Yep. Again, there's those navigation bar or buttons on each side. Okay.
Let's find him on the page. He is on the page somewhere here. Oh, it's probably further down.
So
here we go. Well, I knew it was him because I've got the same details, but the one thing that made me know is because I knew all these people that were mentioned that got money. So I knew his brother Stanley, and I knew his sister was my grandmother. And he's got a sister-in-law, and he's got a sister-in-law mentioned there, who was my one of my other great uncles. That was his wife. Now, this one that's mentioned that she got it because her husband had died in the flu epidemic, and so he was no longer alive. So she got the money that this bit that he would have been due. And there was another brother, but he also was killed in the First World War, so he wasn't. So this was just the people that were still surviving. But that was the one thing that actually made sure. I suspected this was my great uncle, but I didn't know for sure until I found this actual document.
Yes. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Well, thank you for sharing that. And you know, these are very precious indications of lives lost and sacrifices made by the family. Incredible. Thank you, Hillary. I know you got to go. We're always so happy whenever you can be here. Okay, so who's next on the docket? Let me pull that up. Let's see. We got your medal cards and I think it's Randy. And so we're going to look at an ancestry database for Norman Siver. I'm going to share my screen. Golly. And what have you got here? Oh, they're advertising how they're doing this new preview option. Speak to me, Randy.
Yeah, Norman Siver is my fifth great grandfather, and he served 3 campaigns in the Revolutionary War. And so in Massachusetts, they have the Soldiers and Sailors in the Revolutionary War set of books. He's in volume 13.
Yes.
Okay. And he's actually in there twice as SEVER and then SEAVER as a separate person.
Okay.
Because they take stuff from different records, you know.
Right.
So
right.
You
want to zoom in?
He's the last one on the list, I think, down there.
Okay.
On that page. And so there's the 3 terms he served with some detail. So I just copy that and I've put it in my notes and whatever. And then last week I used AI to tell me what did that company and those companies and regiments do and what did Norman as a sergeant and then a first lieutenant do in those times. And so that's one of them. Another way to find information like this, not every state has books like this, is to use the DAR and SAR collections, and they will always have something about service.
Okay, I'm going to click on it solidly. That drives me nuts. It's okay though.
And consequently, and then town and county history books often will have information like this for soldiers of the Revolution.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing to talk about on how these applications were made. They're made on, let's see, I guess 11 by 17 paper. And what you're looking at is page 1 and page 4, because they fold along this part. So this is part of that application. DAR does this too, but they microfilmed them differently. And so the next page, this is the page for who went in under, this is the applicant and who it, and these are signatures for the date of, from the state secretary and the state registrar for the SAR, Sons of American Revolution. And let's go and look at the other 2 pages. Oh, they're not doing it that way. Oh, yes, they are. Here's the rest of it. Because this is cool. I am the son of, and then and I'm the grandson. There's the lineage right there.
Yep.
And there is the mention of the company. And here's the person nominated and undersigned by 2 members of that local chapter of SAR. And who the, yes, excellent. Wow. Have
Norman Siver Frost, the SAR member, had the name Norman Siver Frost for Norman Siver SAR.
Yep. Excellent. So I don't know. I wish that Cousin Dave was here, because he's a state registrar, I think, in Massachusetts. And he could tell me if they have had problems with some applications, like they do at the DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, where they have flagged some of the early ones that have to be reproved. And it's just a matter of reproving rather than in the early days of the DAR, the generations between that applicant and the service person were fewer, and it was like their grandpa or their great grandpa that they knew of from their own family Bible, but they weren't as stringent in the rules. Do you know if SAR applications have some flagged for re-evaluation?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. I have no idea. Randy, Frank had a question for you on figuring out, in your first case, did you use Perplexity when you wanted to find out what was that unit doing in that time period?
I had the information from those records in my notes in Roots Magic, so I just copied those and said, and I use Claude for this because they write better than everybody else. And I already had the information. I didn't want them to invent anything.
Yes.
And so I just gave it all the information I had and said, tell me what these guys were doing.
Yeah, based on this.
Yeah.
And you got dates and times and places and names of units, so that if Claude had access to unit histories, from any such place, yeah, then that could be developed. So Claude, all right, thank you for that. I'm sure any will do. I lately have been, I was very much in favor of Perplexity, and I lately have been liking Chat GPT better. I found Perplexity I was doing naval history work for Mr. Myrt. He was in the Army, but we're doing naval history stuff. And Wikipedia gave me more than Perplexity would give us as to Civil War naval ships and types of ships and when they went into service. And that's bad, especially when I told it to look at Wikipedia. And yeah, but ChatGPT just did a wonderful job. I haven't used Claude, so that's interesting. Thank you.
You have to fish in all streams sometimes.
Yeah, I think you are right. All right, so we're moving on to Ellen. And Ellen, I want to pull up your Jesse Oliver. Tell me about Jesse Oliver.
Jesse Oliver is my great-grandfather. And actually, the records are really funky. They're always upside down and you have to spin them around. But actually, can we go to my second one?
Oh, yeah, if you prefer, yeah.
Yeah, because he's more, well, this is my great-grandfather, but this guy is so much more interesting. And,
all right.
And he's my first cousin twice removed. And I knew nothing about him until I started back into genealogy like about 20 years ago. And one of my cousins that I met through a genealogy site asked me about Jesse Vincent. Do you know anything about him? And I never heard of him. And suddenly I started knowing everything about him. And so he came to he was an orphan. He has an amazing story. And he was an orphan and he came to Canada, and then he signed up for World War I almost immediately after it started. Mm-hmm. And he was in the Battle of Ypres, and he was mustard gassed and he was shot, and he had a girlfriend. I found so many stories about him, and it's really weird because I would always find out things about him around the time he died. I would get something new, and so he's like, really special.
He wants to be found.
Yes.
So he wants to be remembered.
So this document is really good because previously I had to buy it from Library and Archives Canada. It's this one on Ancestry might not be as complete as the one that I purchased, but it tells, that's my great grandmother was his contact next of kin. And
country birth.
Yeah, he was Brighton. And like I say, almost immediately he was, and I think he was actually at Valcartier, Quebec around the same time as my maternal great grandfather was there. So, who knows? Anyways.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like I say, I'm going to put in the private chat a blog I wrote about him because he's such an interesting person, and all of the things that I've found about him have been so just serendipity kind of things. And in the records they have how he got paid and the medals, and his great grandmother ended up with, or his grandmother ended up with the medals, and I've seen them since I've gone to England. And he was a really handsome guy.
Definitely. Look at that hair.
He ended up after he was sent home, he died 2 days, I think it was 2 days before the end of World War I. He got Spanish flu. So I thought, after going through everything that he went through,
Oh,
die of the flu.
oh, golly.
So,
Heartbreaking.
I mean, I go to his grave every year to, just pay my respects because he doesn't have anybody,
Right.
any children or that. So,
Yeah. Oh, well, now, folks, remember part of the reason why we share these links and I show it to you on the screen is for brand recognition. So you know it's a safe website to go to. So somebody wanted to know if Jess was a British home child.
no, he wasn't. He ended up coming over to Canada because my great grandfather was already here, and him and my great great grandmother came together, and I imagine they were going to live in Canada, and then she ended up, once he died, because I mean she doted on him. He was in care in England, and she worked to get him in her care after, because both of his parents died. I mean, it's just an amazing. And he only lived to be 23, and he had an amazing life.
He had an incredible life. And apparently, every year around the time he passed away, he let you know he's just on the other side.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing about him.
Yeah, thank you.
I enjoy that, finding out about these things. All right. So I'm going to do my share of a military record. And this is a GAR application, Grand Army of the Republic, and here we'll zoom in on it, was a veterans organization for Union veterans of the Civil War, U.S. Civil War, war between the states, as it is sometimes called. And so this actually, there's a lot of William Phillipses in Iowa and Indiana. There's a lot of them. There's like 8 or 9. He has the initial H, and in our family, we knew him as William Henry A. period Phillips. That's what's come down through the generations. But Knoxville was where he passed away. And so that's what caused me to look at this record. Now, I knew Knoxville from the family Bible. This is my maternal grandmother's grandfather. This is extremely important. He was in 19th Indiana, and we've only known him as being Knoxville, Iowa, and that he was born in, we knew the date, October 1844. But we didn't know where in Indiana. And we didn't even know Indiana. This helped me find him in Indiana with his parents, this particular record. And I got this before I got his pension file. Private Company K, 19th Indiana Infantry. He also happened to be in the Veterans Reserve Corps, which is another thing. If they were too old to fight or had been injured from battle, more likely the second thing, Mr. Myrt would correct me there. They could be in the Veterans Reserve Corps. They would not be at the front line. They could be doing service like with the field hospital, something like that. This is a big thing. Mrs. Charles Goring, Louisa Terry was the wife. We know these names from our family Bible. And there's information about how after 1862, he transferred to Company E, 2nd or 20th Indiana Infantry. All of these things made sense to me. The fact that he was discharged in 1865 at Indianapolis, Indiana, leads us to believe that his Veterans Reserve Corps work may have been done in Indiana trying to muster people in or help with enlistment, but it was no longer necessary. That's why I was already in Indianapolis. Typically, when they get discharged, it's, you know, someplace in Virginia or wherever they were when the war was over. And of course, this helped me because now I knew something about his unit and how to look for him in pension applications. I wish that I had with me immediately his pension application to share with you. It's not completely digitized because his wife explained the name, that he was always known as William H. Phillips in the military, but he was known as he was more known as Henry Phillips in his community, which explained a lot when it came to state census records, etc. All right, so that is a bit of our talk about records that aren't the usual record sets. We didn't look at muster rolls. We didn't look at pension. We looked at a type of record that shows there was some military service on the part of an ancestor. Okay, so Claire has made it to the building. Claire, I'm going to bring you up. Let's test your mic and see how it works. You muted yourself. You don't need to do that. When you're in the wings, when you're in the wings in StreamYard, you're automatically muted. That's something to tell people so that they know. Yeah, you didn't know that. And when I bring you up, then it automatically unmutes you. And that's just a function of StreamYard. Now, the reason I invited you here today, aside from the fact that you're a friend and an eminent genealogist and you're techie and everything else, you were using a certain item on a certain service that was offered at MyHeritage, and you noticed a problem with it. Talk to me about that service.
Yeah, I was using Deep Story, which is where they take a picture and they allow you to tell the story about that person. And I've been adding stuff. I had concentrated on one particular person, and there were a number of children. And I would post the pictures as I find them and things. And I built up quite a vocabulary. I changed the script and everything. And I went to add another one, and I couldn't find it. And I was wondering, well, maybe there's something wrong. So anyway, I went back later on and couldn't find it. So I ended up sending an email to Daniel, and apparently it was retired, but there was no notice, no nothing. So I did do a blog to talk about it. And I do not know, other than what he had said, which is what I reported in the blog article. And so for anyone that did anything with that Deep Story, they're out of luck. And I know that quite a few people did use it at the time, and I had been using it quite frequently, been keeping up and adding to this one ancestor as I found more information. And I would share it with my family, and they loved it, you know? And so if they click on it, there's just nothing there now.
That's a shame. I know that, well, first of all, if you could, by default, you're in comments on the right side of your screen. You can see comments coming in from the YouTube side. And down below, there's a navigation bar on that far right side in private chat. If you could put the link in the private chat to your blog post, I'll share it with people.
Oh, I don't have that open right now. I did have it in the
Okay, well, if you could somehow
find it. I'll have to find it first, but
okay, thank you, because I didn't have it in my I didn't have it on our docket.
I put the link in the spreadsheet. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me go.
And while you're doing that, let me explain, folks. You know, we're happy that websites focus on genealogy. And in the world of genealogy, there are some big heavy hitters, and Family Search is one, and MyHeritage is one, etc. And yeah, they try things out, and if they're not that popular, I can see why they would allocate their resources in it and
Yeah,
go a
it's
different
possible.
direction.
It's possible that it went out of use. You know, it's very possible.
Yes.
Anything's possible. I do
Yeah.
not have that link right this second, but I will find it while we can move on to another topic.
Okay. That's perfect. So when you find things like this, folks, let us know. Let old Myrt know. Respond, create a post, whatever it is. Let me put you back in the wings. This is how you do it. You now know you're an official panelist. And the link is always in our private Facebook communication, instant messaging, whatever they call their service, till that goes away.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks, Claire. I appreciate it. All right. I just wanted to tell you that I am going to do a giveaway today. And the book I'm giving away is the new book, Your Stripped Bare Guide to Citing and Using History Sources by Elizabeth Shown Mills. It came while I was gone. And this is not the same thing as the laminated quick sheet, the Stripped Bare Guide. It's along the same lines, but it's not as heavy reading as, oh my gosh, I can almost do it with one hand. Evidence Explained. In fact, she refers to the fact that for beginners, this is a better book to use. Now, I just received it. So let me tell you what the chapter headings are. Fundamentals, like source usage, evidence analysis, and documentation. Part 2 is how to construct citations, and then which would be construction basics and a few universal templates. Not 790 some odd pages worth. Sorry, I dropped it. I dropped it on purpose. Okay, then it has a pretty lengthy glossary as one of the 2 appendices. It goes from a page 107 to a page 120. That's pretty good. And then starting on page 121 are items for further study. And I haven't even looked at that yet. I imagine it's like a bibliography of, of different books and quick sheets, Canadian Guide for Uniform Legal Citation, Chicago Manual of Style, Oliver quick sheets, old elements of genealogical analysis. That's that Robert Charles Anderson. The Genealogical Standards book, and then there's the index. I am evaluating this book, but I'm also going to give it away in the last 2 minutes of today's show. What you need to do is type in the hashtag Mondays with Myrt. Doesn't matter if it's upper and lowercase, but all of that has to be squished together. Thank you, Sherry, for putting the link in there. And you need to be willing to give me your Gmail or your email address so that I can, and your home address so that I can send this to you. If you're outside of the United States and you're the one that wins, I'll probably have to send you via PayPal or Venmo or something like that, the equivalent funds, because I don't know that they can ship it overseas. I don't know. Yeah, you're already starting to do it. Good job. Yeah. So Betty Lou, who usually reminds you to hit the like button and to subscribe so you won't miss anything. Yeah, she got it. So this is the newest book. This is what we were waiting for and why I forestalled doing any work with book club. I'd planned to do something using Dr. Jones's I think it was Mastering Genealogy. Did we do genealogy? I can't remember. It was one of Tom Jones's book I was planning to do. Thank you for the link to this too, Randy, for posting this. Yeah, I'm going to be giving that away. Let's see what else is on the docket. I've got to actually look. I think we're doing really well. Oh, Ellen, we're going to talk about your filing system. So come back up and let's talk about your filing system. I'm going to pull up the share screen option. And one of the hard things for genealogists is to try to figure out what the heck to do with all the stuff they're gathering, like these images that we've shown on the screen that are evidence of our ancestors' military service. Ooh, good. Lots of people are typing in Mondays with Myrt. Yeah. So I read this post of yours and how you're organizing things to introduce the topic of let's kind of do it the way that works for you. So we're going to climb inside your brain.
Oh, no.
It's already chock full of other stuff. But talk to me about your filing system as an example for how people might go forward with organizing their stuff.
I did a couple of blogs, and they were about how to create a family history home, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was writing different articles about how to deal with these things. I use Forever for my genealogy files. I have everything. I mean, I have physical ones, but I've had them all digitized now, and I put them in Forever. And it was a way of how to organize them that works for me. And
to be clear, Forever is a website.
Yeah, it's forever.com. And I'm an ambassador, so that's why I talk about it all the time.
Okay.
So, but it's just and I'm interested in multiple different ways of how to organize all these things that you have, you know, and I'm not by no means, I'm probably maybe a little bit more organized than some people might be, but I'm not as organized as some people are, you know.
Okay. So
I'm
you're
not
middle of the road.
Other people, but this has worked for me.
Yes, that's the key. This is what works for your brain.
Yeah.
And no, you don't need the caps. It's okay. I just do it because it helps people type it out better. You know, they can see the words better when they're like that. Okay. Thank you. Not to worry. And Frank says he will try to look for it. It's also sorry, we're getting a lot of comments, so I got to answer them. The book is available from genealogical.com, the publisher.
I checked it out in Canada, and the exchange they're using in Canada is brutal.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. All right. So back to getting organized and your filing system. So
it's basically, you know, like kind of why you want to do it, so that you're not making, you know, doing the same thing over and over, and how you can track your progress. And in my filing system for my genealogy, I have it based on, you know, I'm 00 in my creation, and then my parents are generation 1, which is, I've seen other people do it differently, but that works for me. And then I have, I do mine by surnames, so I have the paternal surname and the maternal surname as a top level, and then below that I have other levels for, you know, all the documents that I have.
Okay. So I did something similar where well, this is the actual what you would be typing for the name of a file.
Right.
Last name space, first name space, the year, because then all of the records for that person would be in chronological order.
Right.
And then a brief, you know, marriage record, death, whatever it is.
Right. So these kind of ideas can be used in any, like on your computer, these kind of, if that's where you want to store them, then you can use this system for storing them that way.
Yeah. And then this is what happens when we have a document and we scan it, and it's called scan number 123. That's not definitive enough.
Yeah, it's not very helpful if somebody else is looking at it.
And your scan 123 is not the same as mine.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then, of course, because you are dealing with forever, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But you also talk about, our hard drives are good on our internal computer,
Mhm.
and an external hard drive is good. I've got that.
Yeah.
But the cloud service is, when you've got to run because the fire, you've got 15 minutes to get out, your
Yeah, and
meds
that
are more
happened to me.
important.
Yeah, that happened to me. I was told that there was a little fire close to my home, and I was told that I might have to leave in 15 minutes. And you panic and you think, what am I going to take? And then I realized, oh, I don't have to take my photos; they're all on forever.
Yeah. I am starting with Forever as another place and an easy place to share. But
And
because
Backblaze is perfect too, because it backs up my computer every night. And so when my computer was having issues last fall, my IT guy could take my Backblaze, and I was up and running relatively quickly.
I use Backblaze because cousin Russ got me to use it. And it took a lot at first for it to back everything up.
Right.
And then it does incremental backups thereafter.
Yeah.
Let's see. Backblaze saved her at least once already in the 2 years she's had it. Definitely worth it. Yeah. And Frank says, at least name transcripts in case you've done them separately, the same name as the corresponding file. Yeah, like there's multiple surname spellings. Spelling doesn't count for names, does it? So you got to pick one. Yeah. But on subsequent documents, if it's spelled EI or IE or with an ES or just an S at the end, leave it the way it is in that document. Sherry came up with a genealogical. Is this the book version, Sherry, as opposed to her actual quick sheet, which is a laminated 11 by 17 folded in half? I guess I could check. I can't click on it though. I mean, I can show it, but anyway. Paula says, I've been doing genealogy for 5 years. I'm learning a lot from the panelists over the last year. Oh, yeah, I hope that you get it. Paul. It's Paul B. I said Paula. I must have been doing the B upside down. I'm going crazy. I give up. And Sherry says, yes, that was the book version from the publisher, because, the publisher sells the quick sheet. And I have the quick sheets all in one place over on my bookshelf, which is not convenient. They need to be right here by my... Are we mixing and matching topics today or what, Ellen? You're so
no worries. No worries.
It's all good, I guess. Anyway.
But I encourage people to, check out my blog, because I write about, dealing with your scary box. That's that box that's in the back of the closet that you need to, get to things. And I don't know. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Well, I am on this new kick where every day I have my list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be housework, which tends to slide. It could be computer work. It could be scanning. It could be watercoloring. It could be quilting. Whatever I consider the hardest task, I'm trying to do that first to get it over with. So I'm not dreading it.
This is how I do dusting.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. Best tip of the day on household maintenance, direct from Ellen to the world. Thank you. I
Thanks.
love it. Paul, I'm glad you're enjoying Mondays with Myrt. All right, let's see if there's anything else from the list that I should have been talking about today.
I'm giving you your 6-minute warning.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It takes a village to get this show on the road. Okay, so I'm looking at lightning round. Yeah. So I don't know if you know what GovDocs are here in the US. The Congress of the United States keeps track of all of the things that happen. Boy, that's a lot. But anyway, it used to be it took an act of Congress for a pension to be paid. And in the case of my husband, Mr. Myrt's grandmother, that following the bill that her state or the congressman from her state, which was Iowa, had to go through to introduce the bill so that she could receive a pension for the Philippine insurrection service of her deceased spouse. It had to go to the floor. It was then referred to committee. And then it was curtailed. Then they went on hiatus. Then the next year, it came from committee to the floor. It got an amendment. All of that tracking back and forth. Finally, the Senate gets it because the House of Representatives approved it for her. It took like 2.5 years for her to get the pension. And it was a lump sum payment. And then it went back, and this is the date that it went to the president's desk to be signed. Those are all things that you can find in GovDocs for just one woman's pension file. Appropriations for building a lighthouse on the Oregon coast. I did some research on that. And following the bill through Congress, basically. And so the Internet Archives is now an official US GovDocs library. In the advanced genealogical research course that I took at IGHR when it was still at Samford University and Elizabeth Schoen Mills was teaching it, my GovDocs homework got the gold star for the day. I have it. I will never lose that homework. That's my claim to fame. Anyway, Family Search has, and I'm pulling it up for you, 30,000 pages of Revoir. So you want to go to Family Search. When you get there, you have to log in. Okay. It's a free thing. I have newbies every day. Remember, Mondays with Myrt is for beginners. And the rest of us can, well, I'm a beginner in certain areas. I don't know everything. Anyway, if you want to know if there were pension or bounty land warrant applications on Revoir service, it's another indication of military service. They've got it at Family Search. False or fraudulent pedigrees. Now, this has been hanging in my to talk about list real quickly during the lightning round. Yeah, I know I've got to be doing the giveaway. Don't worry. Robert Raymond did a post on fraudulent genealogies. There was a thing, especially around the turn of the previous century, not this one, where you're going to need to know that wealthy people would pay good money and fraudulent researchers would take advantage. And there are some very famous ones. And so you're going to want to know about the Horn Papers and Gustave Anjou and Charles Henry Browning and Harriet de Saillis, et cetera, and the time period of the work that was done. Yeah, we always thought Verkus was good. Articles discussing the works of it. Yeah, so references wherever possible. Okay, and it is time for us to do the giveaway tool. So I have 22 entries. This is the last call. I'll take one more entry, one more hashtag, Mondays with Myrt. Now remember, you're going to need to give me your mailing address. I will only use it at Amazon.com. My remote office is at Amazon.com. Thank you, Paula. There's number 23, Paula Collins. Let's see who wins. Elizabeth Schoen Mill's newest book, Your Strip Bare Guide to Citing and Using History Sources. Let's see who wins. JC Malibu wins. Okay, JC, I'm writing your name down. You'll have to identify yourself. Be sure. I'm sorry, Kathy. It was already done. Yeah. So please send a note to DearMYRTLE@gmail.com and identify yourself as the winner, JC Malibu. And congratulations, this book will be coming to you as soon as possible. And I guess that there's probably nothing left to say, but been a great week. Thank you, everybody on the panel, those of you who've been participating on the YouTube side. Happy birthday to our 2 birthday girls this week. Have a great next 2 weeks. We'll see what we come up with to discuss on Mondays with Myrt. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.